In the mid-10th century, the land that would become Poland was a scene of dense forests, rivers, and marshlands inhabited by a mosaic of West Slavic tribes. It was a world governed not by kings or popes but by chieftains and ancestral traditions. Religion was rooted in the rhythms of nature. Gods and spirits inhabited groves, stones, and hearths. The people venerated deities like Perun, god of thunder, and Wils, lord of the underworld. Sacred rituals, led by tribal priests, honored the cycles of the seasons and the dead. It was an oral culture where memory and myth were passed down by firelight, and political power was tightly interwoven with religious authority. There were no churches, no bishops, no written laws, only the forests, the clan, and the gods of old. But this world was not isolated. To the west loomed the Holy Roman Empire, a Christian power under Otto I, whose armies and missionaries pushed eastward, bringing with them a new faith and an imperial logic. Paganism to the Christian West was not simply a different religion, it was a justification for conquest. Slavic tribes west of the Oder had already faced forced conversions and violent campaigns under the guise of holy war. For the still pagan Polands, ruled by the astute and ambitious Duke Mieszko I, the threat was clear: remain pagan and risk invasion, or embrace Christianity and step into the circle of European sovereigns. Mieszko was no ideologue, he was a ruler with a vision. Having consolidated several tribes under his rule, he understood that further unification required more than force. A common religion could forge cohesion across disparate peoples, but more urgently, baptism offered protection. By converting voluntarily, Mieszko could align his duchy with Latin Christendom on his own terms, forestalling external domination. It was, in essence, a shield against the imperial designs of the German Margraves, especially the Archbishopric of Magdeburg, which had ambitions to control missionary activity in the Slavic East. The opportunity came in 965, when Mieszko married Dobrava, a Christian princess from Bohemia's Przemyslid dynasty. Though their union was political, Dobrava's influence was real. Within a year, in 966, Mieszko was baptized, most likely on Holy Saturday, in a ceremony that marked not just his personal conversion, but the symbolic Christianization of Poland. The baptismal site is debated, Gniezno, Ostrów Ledniki, or Poznań, but the intent is clear. Mieszko chose to be baptized under Bohemian, not German, auspices. It was a move of quiet defiance. He embraced Christianity, but not subjugation. The immediate consequences were transformative. Mieszko began building the first ecclesiastical structures, including Poland's first cathedral and bishopric in Poznań by 968, headed by Bishop Jordan and subordinated directly to Rome. This bypassed German ecclesiastical authority and reinforced Poland's religious and political autonomy. He imported educated clergy who brought not only liturgy but Latin literacy, written law, and administrative expertise. Pagan practices were not instantly eradicated. They persisted in rural areas for generations, but the ruling elite now operated within a Christian framework. Christianization brought Poland into the orbit of Latin Europe. It opened channels for diplomacy, trade, and intellectual exchange. The state gained a sacred dimension. Mieszko was no longer just a tribal warlord, but a divinely sanctioned Christian prince. This legitimacy laid the foundations for the Piast dynasty's dynastic continuity and, later, the coronation of his son, Bolesław Chrobry, as the first king of Poland in 1025. However, the transformation was not without cost. The suppression of the old religion involved violence and cultural loss. Sacred groves were destroyed, priests of the old gods displaced or killed. The unity of faith did not eliminate internal strife. Christianization created tension between the Latinizing elite and the rural population. Moreover, Poland's integration into the Christian world also drew it into the power politics of the West, exposing it to both alliance and aggression. In the long term, the baptism of 966 proved decisive. It ensured the survival and sovereignty of the early Polish state. It enabled the growth of central authority, bureaucracy, and a common national identity rooted in faith. It allowed Poland to become a kingdom, to develop institutions, and to withstand external threats, from the Mongols to the Teutonic Knights. It also positioned Poland as a key player in the religious and cultural conflicts of Europe, including the East-West Schism and later the Protestant Reformation and Catholic Counter-Reformation. What if Mieszko had refused conversion? Poland might have suffered the fate of the pagan Prussians, forcibly subdued and converted by the Teutonic Order. A pagan Poland would likely have fractured under pressure, never achieving statehood or international recognition. Alternatively, had Mieszko chosen Byzantine Christianity, Poland might have gravitated toward the Orthodox East, aligning more closely with Ruthenia and eventually Russia, shaping a radically different cultural and political identity. Instead, Mieszko's choice brought Poland into the Latin Christian fold, securing its sovereignty while anchoring it firmly within Western civilization. In a single act of baptism, he changed not only his soul's allegiance but the destiny of a people. That choice, born of pragmatism and vision, remains one of the most consequential decisions in the history of Central Europe. Dziękuję. Like and subscribe to avoid being crusaded